Well, as the race for 2020 heats up, a new report highlights, quote, one of the most urgent threats facing our democracy. The report looks into the extent that democratic elections are vulnerable to social media manipulation. And one of the authors of the report happens to be sitting next to me today. That's Sinan. And Sinan, you look not just as, you sort of ask, how do we know if it's a threat? Because the issue is so politicized, it's hard to get an unbiased, even analysis of it.
Well, so Robert Mueller is possibly the most understated man in Washington, and he testified that this is among the most serious challenges to democracy that he has seen in his career. FBI Director Christopher Wray is saying that the threat is only escalating. What we know so far is that 126 million people were exposed to Russian misinformation on Facebook, 20 million on Instagram, 10 million tweets on Twitter to 6 million followers. We know that 27% of voting age Americans were exposed to fake news in the final weeks before the election. We know Russia targeted swing states, and we know that they attempted to target all, voting systems in all 50 states. Mm-hmm. We know all of those things. What we don't know is, did it or could this kind of misinformation tip an election? Yeah. And the reason we don't know is because we're not measuring it. And what we describe in this paper is that we can measure it. It's knowable. It's eminently knowable. The tools already exist and have been developed. We simply don't have access to the data we would need to not only look retrospectively at 2016 or 2018, but to think proactively about 2020. As a result of this lack of research, the experts are divided. Some experts say that a combination of hacking and social media manipulation tipped the 2016 election for Donald Trump. Other experts disagree and say that it's unlikely. Our point is that there is a very simple four-step plan for measuring whether it did and if it will in 2020, and it's not being implemented.
And that data is available. It's private data, or it exists.
It's a combination of private data in the hands of the platforms and public data that are voter related. Mm-hmm. So in order to conduct this analysis, what you would need is you would need to know exposure. Who was exposed to which messages? Mm-hmm. You would need to connect that with voter data, voter turnout data, and vote choice data. Obviously, that's a secret ballot, but we have aggregates at the district and state level. And then you'd need some sort of method for causal inference, understanding what the causal effect of messages were on voter turnout choices and vote choice behaviors. Mm-hmm. All of this data exists. And for instance, there is a program called Social Science One that is an industry academic partnership that is designed to get researchers access to this kind of data. And as Craig Silverman at BuzzFeed noted over the last 10 days in 2 articles, they had promised to deliver data to researchers, but that's been tremendously delayed, and the data has not been given by Facebook. And also, the funders of Social Science One are threatening to pull out by September 30th if the data is not delivered. Now, Facebook responds to this and says, we intend to deliver this data, but we are having trouble doing it quickly because we want to keep it private. We want to make sure that we can anonymize the data and secure the data. And this reflects what I've discussed in the past, which is what I call a transparency paradox. Yeah. So these companies are, at the same time they're being asked to open the kimono and reveal how everything works, and simultaneously they're being asked to lock everything down and secure the private data. In order to succeed at protecting our elections and many other things, we'll have to thread this needle, and the platforms will have to become more secure and more transparent at the same time.
Wow. Yeah. All right, and I believe the Federal Election Commission is just calling for hearings and subpoenaing some of these companies to talk to them in September, but we'll see if it's too late.